They told you BRICS was fracturing. What they didn't tell you is that fracture lines are exactly where tectonic plates build their most unstoppable pressure. This past week, Russia reportedly flirted with returning to the US dollar. India seized tankers linked to its own BRICS partners. And mainstream headlines did what they always do. They called it chaos, disunity, collapse. They were wrong. What is actually happening is far more complex and far more consequential. Because while pundits are busy counting cracks, a parallel financial architecture is being assembled beneath their feet. In digital rubles, joint naval exercises, and solidarity shipments of Vietnamese rice to Havana. Stay with me. I'm going to break down exactly why this week matters for BRICS power and why the people laughing at the bloc's contradictions may be the least prepared for what comes next. I'm Anastasia, and this is Think BRICS. For years on YouTube and Substack, we have tracked BRICS expansion, energy deals, currency shifts, and the global south's stubborn realignment. Now, 130,000 subscribers, tired of headlines that confuse movement with instability, follow us. We focus on balance sheets, pipelines, and trade routes. This week, the gap is widest yet. Let's begin. Today, we cover 4 critical BRICS developments from this past week. Number 1, Russia's reported return to the dollar, while China pushes in the exact opposite direction. The currency and payment system debate inside BRICS is entering its most complex chapter yet. Number 2, India's uncomfortable week, seizing tankers linked to its own BRICS partners and signing trade deals with Washington. Strategic autonomy or quiet capitulation. Number 3, the birth of a BRICS maritime security force. Russia's Nikolai Patrushev calls for institutionalized naval cooperation, and joint exercises are already underway. Number 4, Cuba. The US tightens the blockade, and the BRICS response may define the bloc's moral credibility for a generation. Let's dive in. Let's start with what everyone is talking about. Reports emerged in February 2026 that the Kremlin's principal negotiator with the White House, Kirill Dmitriev, has been quietly advancing what insiders call the Dmitriev Plan, a memorandum exploring renewed dollar-based trade settlements as part of a broader economic alignment with the Trump administration. The plan reportedly covers 7 areas: aviation cooperation, nuclear energy for AI ventures, and coordination on critical raw materials, including lithium and platinum. On the surface, this looks like a surrender of everything BRICS has been building for the past decade. But here is what mainstream missed. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov was explicit. Russia did not abandon the dollar. Russia was expelled from it. Washington weaponized SWIFT. Washington imposed sanctions. The dollar was taken away, and now Russia is simply exploring the conditions under which it might return. That is not retreat. That is negotiating leverage. And crucially, simultaneously, Xi Jinping has published a renewed vision for a powerful yuan as a global reserve currency in the Communist Party's theoretical journal, Xi. While the yuan accounts for only about 2% of global foreign exchange reserves today, its use in actual trade settlements, particularly with Russia and Iran, has hit record highs. So here is the real picture. Russia explores the dollar tactically. China builds yuan infrastructure structurally. And meanwhile, the digital ruble, Moscow's central bank digital currency, is targeting September the 1st, 2026 for live cross-border BRICS settlements, bypassing SWIFT entirely. What looks like contradiction is actually division of labor. Now, step back. What's the real leverage here? Russia's September parliamentary elections are on September 20th. The Kremlin needs economic stability at home. The Dmitriev plan, if real, is not a geopolitical commitment. It's a domestic political calculation. Temporary dollar excess in exchange for tactical breathing room. That is not de-dollarization abandoned. That is de-dollarization based. Behind the headlines, the structural build continues. BRICS nations are advancing in precious metals exchange, designed to provide a stable trading platform outside the volatile Western-dominated gold and silver markets, where gold briefly touched over 5,600 US dollars per ounce in early 2026. They are expanding the mBridge platform and BRICS Pay, digital payment rails that do not route through any Western node. And here is something very few analysts are saying. India, despite the headlines about tanker seizures, is actually advancing CBDC linkages under its current BRICS chairmanship. New Delhi is building the plumbing of a post-dollar financial system with one hand, while pleasing Washington with the other. That is the real economic story, not panic, not collapse. A bloc sophisticated enough to pursue contradictory tactics at the surface while maintaining structural alignment underneath. Quick note: Think BRICS runs on viewers, not lobbyists. If this analysis matters to you, support us via Super Thanks or Substack, links below. Hit subscribe, it takes 2 seconds and it tells YouTube's algorithm that this kind of strategic analysis actually matters. It genuinely helps. So, who really wins from this? Let us talk about the sea, because what Nikolai Patrushev, chairman of the Russian Maritime Board, announced this week may be the most structurally significant move BRICS has made in years. Patrushev called for institutionalized naval cooperation to protect global shipping lanes from what he named directly Western piracy, the seizure of vessels under unilateral sanctions with no legal mandate from international law. And this is not rhetoric, because something is already operational. In January, Will for Peace 2026 brought together the navies of Russia, China, Iran, and South Africa off Cape Town. The drills divided media coverage sharply. Some Western outlets framed South Africa's participation as a diplomatic liability, a provocation toward Washington. Others read it as a straightforward exercise of sovereign multilateral cooperation. For the sake of accuracy, we report about both positions. You decide. Right now, as we record this, the Maritime Security Belt 2026 is actively underway in the Strait of Hormuz. Russia, China, and Iran, annual partners in this exercise, are drilling in waters where US naval assets are also present, at a moment of peak American pressure on Tehran. This year, the routine has become a signal. We have seen this BRICS pattern before. Quiet capability building, then announcement, when the architecture is already irreversible. It happened with the New Development Bank, with Yuan swap lines, with BRICS Pay. A maritime coalition is not about tankers. It is about doctrine. No single power imposes naval blockades without consequence. But the global south, that shift, if it holds, changes everything. And then there is Cuba. If you want to understand whether BRICS solidarity is real or rhetorical, look at Havana right now. The US has tightened its blockade to its most punishing level since the 90s special period. Venezuela's oil flows have been cut off. Washington is threatening a 25% tariff on any nation that provides oil to the island. Cuba has shortened its school week. It has moved to a 4-day state work week. This is a society under siege. And the BRICS response. China has officially declared firm opposition to what Beijing called inhuman actions and reaffirmed its commitment to Havana. Russia, despite the Dmitriev plan discussions, is actively exploring emergency fuel aid, openly ignoring US tariff threats. Mexico has sent over 800 tons of humanitarian aid via naval vessels. And then there is Vietnam, in perhaps the most vivid display of what I would call smart solidarity this week. Vietnam has not only delivered 250 tons of rice to Cuba, it is running a major hybrid rice production project in the Los Palacios district. Vietnamese agricultural experts are teaching Cuban farmers to grow over 7 tons of rice per hectare using the CT16 variety, building food sovereignty, not dependency. This is the answer to the question multipolarity keeps getting asked. What does it actually offer? It offers solidarity that builds capacity. It offers aid that teaches, not aid that controls. If this continues, if BRICS members hold this line on Cuba over the next 12 or 24 months, it will become the proof of concept that the Global South has been waiting for. A bloc that sustains a besieged partner against US economic warfare is a bloc that works. And if that model holds, look for it to expand to Venezuela, to Nicaragua, to any economy Washington attempts to squeeze into submission. So let's pull back and see the full picture. Russia's dollar flotation is tactical, not structural. China's yuan push is strategic and accelerating. India is walking a tightrope, but it is still building BRICS payment infrastructure beneath the tightrope. The Maritime Security Initiative is moving from words to exercises and to doctrine. And Cuba is proving whether BRICS solidarity is real. The mainstream reads all of this as contradiction. We read it as complexity. A bloc of 10 plus sovereign nations with different election calendars, different energy profiles, and different relationships with Washington is not going to move in perfect unison. But underneath the noise, the architecture keeps building. Digital currencies, maritime coalitions, food sovereignty projects, precious metals exchanges. This is not a bloc in panic. This is a bloc in motion. The unipolar order, propped up for 80 years by the dollar and the carrier group, is hitting its historical boundary. What replaces it will be more contested and more interesting than anything mainstream analysts are prepared to describe. And we will be here every week describing it. And remember, Think BRICS is yours, not theirs. We have no billionaire backers, no lobbyists, only viewers who believe truth matters. Support us on Substack or Super Thanks. Subscribe, ring the bell. Nearly 130,000 here, 300,000 on Facebook. Stay with us. Thanks for watching.